Johnny Murray here, and welcome to another video. Today, we're going to be talking about Star Wars Outlaws. Now, this is a game that I'm just absolutely super duper excited for. This game releases next month, and I cannot be more thrilled, more confident that I'm going to love this game and that this game is going to be good. Granted, Ubisoft doesn't pull a classic Ubisoft. I think we should be fine. But we're going to go ahead and talk about Star Wars Outlaws, give you my overall thoughts, talk about a lot of the details on like what to expect from gameplay, a lot of the different features, how this game is going to play, and just stuff like that. And we're going to go over it before the game releases just so we can prep ourselves and what to exactly expect. But with that being said, if you guys love any games, if you guys just love video games, PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox, third party, Ubisoft, whatever, consider subscribing because we do talk about all things and everything gaming, and I appreciate any support you guys give me, especially on the video right here. But let's go ahead and get talking. Now, you guys know Star Wars is easily my favorite franchise of all time. Not even just gaming. Like, in all of entertainment, Star Wars is my favorite franchise. Right over there, I have like a massive lightsaber collection. And then I've played like every Star Wars game almost. I just absolutely love Star Wars. All right, Star Wars is my bread and butter. So anytime there's something Star Wars, I have to pay attention. For someone who doesn't watch TV shows at all, I may not actually watch the Star Wars TV shows, but I still pay attention, and I see them on Twitter, and I see what's going on because I like to somewhat stay up to date when it comes to all things Star Wars. But with Outlaws, it's really interesting because Ubisoft announced a long time ago that they partnered with Lucasfilm Games to create the very first open-world Star Wars game. Now, as a big fan of Ubisoft back then and still to this day, I thought this was always a really good match. I thought just taking that Ubisoft open-world formula, putting it into Star Wars, I think will just work really well. And what's also interesting is when this game was finally announced, I was a little disappointed, which is really weird because it's exactly what it is. It's an open world Star Wars game, and so if I was excited beforehand, how come it being announced got me a little less excited? Well, I think because I expected Jedi and Sith. I expected, being able to have lightsabers and using the Force and stuff like that, and what we're getting is a bounty hunting game. And, I think my original expectations for what I thought the game was going to be really set my excitement off to a bad start. Because I just ended up not really being all that excited. Like, I knew I was going to play it when it came out, but other than that, I didn't really think like this was going to be a smash hit. Now, that is until they actually started showing the game. They finally had a Ubisoft forward where they showed like a huge gameplay segment where she was shooting, she got into a speeder, then she got into her ship and just took off, and there was some space combat. And then my excitement slowly started to rise because I was realizing this might be the ultimate Star Wars game. And now that we have a lot of information that we're going to be talking about, I truly do think this has the chance of being one of the best Star Wars games ever and being the definition of what a space exploration game should be, and definitely the ultimate Star Wars game as long as you take out lightsabers and the Force. Now, that's not to say there might be some Force wielders. Who knows? That'd be really cool to get some cool cameos. But for the most part, this generally does seem like it's going to be the ultimate space exploration game, and we're going to get talking about that right now. Now, what really excites me is my favorite franchise is Uncharted, and the creative director of this game in an interview literally stated that this is like the Star Wars Uncharted. That's crazy to say, first of all, to just drop in an interview, this is Star Wars Uncharted. First of all, name dropping another franchise from a company you don't work at is crazy in the first place, but comparing it to one of the greatest franchises of all time in terms of like story-driven franchises, that's crazy. Comparing it to my favorite franchise of all time, that's awesome. So that really is cool. And then honestly, when after I read that interview, I went back and watched some of the gameplay and some of the trailers, and I definitely see where he's coming from. When I look at the combat specifically, it does seem similar. Being able to get behind cover. It also reminds me of Gears of War a little bit. Being able to get behind cover, all the different guns, stuff like that. It does seem similar. And so we do have some information about the combat. Number one, that your main weapon is a blaster, but it's going to have different firing modes. So like rapid fire, charge shot, with scatter shot, whatever. It's going to have a bunch of different firing modes, kind of like a Mega Man or Metroid type scenario, just in like the form of Uncharted, I guess. But it's also going to come with different modules, so you're going to be able to just do a whole bunch of different abilities, like the electric shot that will like stun enemies, or you're gonna have like a burn shot that'll help burn stuff. Like, there is gonna be a lot of different variation and just different ways to use the gun. I think that's really good, because one of the issues I've heard some people, or not even issues, some of the big concerns I've heard from a lot of people is they don't want it to get repetitive. They don't want it to feel kind of stale, because at the end of the day, it's just a gun. Now, we have heard that there are multiple guns. She's going to be able to pick up like a huge Gatling gun. She's going to be able to choose up like a sniper rifle, stuff like that. But her main weapon is just going to be a blaster. And so having that huge variation between different firing modes and modules and abilities you can use with your blaster, I think that's going to add for some really deep and layered combat. And that's not even including abilities that just the main character can use, like being able to throw grenades, set traps. She has like an ability called Deadeye, where she basically goes into like this cowboy like McCree type scenario, where she like locks on to like 10 different enemies and then like hip fires all 10 enemies at the same time. So like I'm personally not really worried about the combat. I actually think the combat is one of my more confident areas of the game, just because I understand what the combat's going for. It's not going for like Jedi Fallen Order, like insane combos and stuff like that. It's going for that Uncharted Gears of War system. They want it to feel grounded, and that's exactly what the creative director said himself, is that he wants it to feel grounded. He wants you to feel like you're not invincible, and so you really have to try and be smart. You want to try and feel like you're actually her, and you are trying to escape this scenario and get through this scenario, rather than just, oh, here's another enemy, let's see what cool thing we could do now. It's like, all right, here's another enemy, let's see how we're going to tackle this one. And I think that's really, really cool, especially for a game like this, where you're not playing as somebody overpowered. You're playing as a regular bounty hunter. Now, I hope she's not regular. I hope she's extraordinary. I hope she has an awesome story and all that, but we'll get to that later. On top of that, they add a whole new gameplay element with your pet, Nyx. Nyx can basically distract enemies, go collect guns for you, reveal secrets in enemies, can help stun, can help do a whole bunch of things. And I think that just adds another layer on top of what we've already talked about. So when I say I'm really confident in gameplay, I think that's kind of an understatement. I'm almost completely sold that the gameplay is going to be great. And that's not even considering things like space combat or vehicle combat that we know is in the game already. So, yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Now, some of the things of like progression and how you like just move forward in the game, I think is really interesting that I want to talk about. I think this is definitely an area that has me intrigued, that I'm not too confident in, but I definitely see where this can be really, really cool if they do it the right way. And that's basically the reputation system for factions. So basically, there is no XP or leveling up in the game. There is reputation. And basically, you have multiple factions in the game that are led by a main character. And so, like, for instance, Jabba the Hutt, he has a faction. You can complete quests and complete tasks or bounties for a faction, and that will gain you reputation in that faction. And when you, I guess, get enough reputation, you unlock a new ability, or you unlock upgraded stuff. You unlock rewards. You unlock new areas to go to. And I think this is really clever because, number one, a lot of issues with some Ubisoft games is that a lot of time it feels like a grind, and most of the time it's a grind you don't really want to do, or it's a grind that isn't satisfying enough that it almost feels like a chore, and it could really ruin the pacing of a game. So I think taking that completely out and leaning into what this game is completely focused on, and that is being a bounty hunter, making the sole progression of your character and how you play the game completely connected to being a bounty hunter, I think screams a winning formula here. I think being able to complete these bounties, being able to complete these quests for a bunch of different characters, bunch of different factions in this open world RPG to become a better version of yourself, I think is just sounds like a winning formula, and I'm very, very excited for that. Like we said, getting enough reputation will unlock new areas and rewards. So I'm sure there will be places where it's like restricted area because you don't have very good reputation with this faction. But if you gain enough reputation, they'll allow you to go in this area and it'll open up a whole new place. I think that sounds really, really cool. And then obviously getting rewards, maybe new weapons, new outfits, stuff like that. I think the reputation definitely has success. The problem is I do feel like if they don't flesh it out enough, it will kind of feel like, oh, I have to do this, this, and this just to get that. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I have to beat these 3 quests just to unlock like a machine gun or something like that, you know? Like, I do see where it could lead to almost a worse grind than just leveling up. But if they do it right, I think it could be really interesting and something unique that I would honestly, if done right, I would like to see that kind of thing implemented in a lot of games, not just this game. I think that could be really, really interesting. There is also going to be a wanted system, so I'm assuming this is like GTA. Obviously, it's an open world game. There's a lot of bad guys. There's a lot of factions. Having a wanted system as a bounty hunter makes sense. I assume, like I said, it's gonna be like GTA. Like, you're gonna have like 5-star wanted, and you're gonna have so many enemies coming after you because there's already confirmed to be high-speed chases and just like dog fights and stuff like that. So I think that sounds really, really cool. What's really interesting, I think this is also gonna help the just longevity and the overall enjoyment of the game, is there is gonna be an in-game minigame called Sabak. I don't know exactly. I'm gonna say Sabak. I think it's gonna be called Sabak. And basically what this is, it is a in-game card game that, so like when you go to certain pubs or when you go to certain like shops, there will be a table where you can sit down and play a card game with other characters. And to me, this is like Queen's Blood and Gwent. So Queen's Blood is from Final Fantasy VII, and then Gwent is from Witcher 3. Some of the best parts of those games are those mini games. Queen's Blood and Gwent are like loved. So much loved that they even made a own standalone Witcher game just for Gwent. And there's a lot of communities that love these little mini games. So I think having this is just gonna add a whole new area of the game, a whole new section of the game that people could really get invested into, and I think that's really cool. Do I necessarily love those things in games? No, I don't do it very often, but I'll definitely try it, and I definitely play it a little bit during my playthrough, so I'll be interested to see how that goes. I'm curious if the Sabak is that game that like Chewbacca and all of them play, like sitting at that table, because that's kind of what it looks like, but I think they said it's a card game, so I don't think it is, but yeah, that would be cool. Now let's get to the space combat and what we have to do with space. So we already know this is going to be a huge exploration game, and we've seen the space combat. Now, I love space combat. I think space combat is super fun if done right, and from what we've seen, it looks super fast-paced, looks awesome, looks like Star Wars, and I'm all for it. We also know that there's going to be seamless landing on planets, so you literally just fly into a planet to go into it. You don't have to do a loading screen like Starfield. You know, you don't have to just sit and watch. You can actually just fly into a planet, and that is awesome. What really is interesting for me is that there are dogfights and high-speed chases. So dogfights, obviously we know, a bunch of just fighters flying around shooting each other. Dogfight. The high-speed chases, I'm curious if this is only on land, like being speeders, or if this could actually be like space chases, because that could be really cool. like being able to like jump into hyperspace to get away from like an enemy. That'd be really cool. I could really see where that could be a fun little thing. Just help get some energy up for it. Now let's talk about the like pretty much how you're gonna be able to progress through the story and like the amount of content in the actual game itself. What's really interesting is in that same interview with the creative director, he basically said that he mentioned another franchise again, which I'm sorry, if you're comparing your game to some of these huge franchises, that's a great sign to me. That means you're confident in your product to compare it to some of the best of best, because he compared it. He said they take heavy Mass Effect 2 inspirations, specifically when it comes to dialogue, storytelling, and choices. That is exactly what Mass Effect 2 is known for, is the dialogue choices and the amazing story. So you're comparing the combat to Uncharted, and you're comparing the story to Mass Effect 2. Bro's got a pair. Just keeping it real, because if this game flops, that's gonna come back to bite him very badly. just saying. But yeah, basically he said massive Mass Effect. Wow, huge Mass Effect 2 inspiration with dialogue choices and storytelling. Basically, he said that you're gonna have multiple characters, like we said, multiple factions, being able to interact with multiple characters throughout the world. There are 5 worlds and moons that are fully explorable. So I don't know how many like places entirely, but 5 planets with moons. So I don't know if like you can land on every moon or whatnot, but like I will say 5 at one point to me did seem a little low. I would like there to be more worlds, but at the same time, when he goes into it, he says the worlds and moons are completely fully explorable and are all completely handcrafted. There is no procedural generation. So meaning they genuinely created piece by piece all 5 of these worlds, and he specifically said in an interview that they were aiming for quality over quantity. And to me, I think that's the right choice. Would I love to visit 20 different locations and planets in Star Wars? Yes. But would I love to fall in love with each of these worlds as well? Yes. So I think having that quality for every location and world over having multiple that are just cool, I think is a really great move. And who knows what these moons are going to do. I don't exactly know how the moons are going to work. I'd like to know that probably before the game comes out. But yeah, we know there's going to be stealth infiltrations. We know there's going to be tons of side quests. There's going to be tons of shops to go in the game. There's going to be pubs where you can just go hang out, view bounties, get jobs, stuff like that. And yeah, I just think when you combine all of this, when you ask me if you could play a Star Wars game as a bounty hunter, what would you want to be able to do? And to me, it's obviously have a deep and layered bounty system. And to me, that sounds like the reputation system and the wanted system. I would want layered combat with multiple weapons and multiple gadgets and multiple ways of completing it. I would want to be able to fully explore planets. I'd want to be able to go in outer space. I'd want to be able to fly to any planet I want. I'd want to be able to do stealth. I'd want to be able to have dogfights. I'd want to be able to have high-speed chases. I would want to be able to interact with characters on all of these planets. And when I look at what this game is offering, it's kind of checking every box. This genuinely seems like a game where you can ask any question. Can I do this? Can I do that? And it almost seems like the answer is almost every time going to be yeah. So I'm very excited for this game. Like, it like hit me at the beginning of the year. I was like, why am I not more excited for this game? And then the story trailer dropped. And then it kind of just clicked. And automatically it was in my top 10 most anticipated games. Because I'm like, this is everything I'd want out of a Star Wars game. Outside of wanting to be a Jedi or a Sith. Sign me up. I'm ready. I do think this is probably going to be one of the best Ubisoft games in years. I really do think that. And honestly, there was a high bar set with Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, so I'm curious where it'll end up landing. But, ladies and gentlemen, leave a comment in the section down below. What do you think Star Wars Outlaw is, or how do you think Star Wars Outlaw is going to do? And what is your excitement levels, or what are some things you would like to see from the game, or what are some things you're very happy the game is going to have? I'd love to know. I'd love to have a conversation with you guys. Love Star Wars. But, yeah, thank you all so much for supporting this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Jenny, we're out. Peace.